Hello, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America, featuring today's top directors sharing behind-the-scenes stories of their latest film and insights into the craft of directing. Please take a second to subscribe to our show wherever you get your podcasts. This episode takes us behind the scenes of director Ondi Timoner's new biographical drama, Mapplethorpe. The film follows iconic photographer Robert Mapplethorpe, whose portraits, still lifes, and chronicles of New York City's underground BDSM scene inspired censorship debates throughout the 1980s and remain touchstones of 20th century photography, from his rise to fame in the 1970s to his untimely death in 1989. Mapplethorpe is Ms. Timoner's narrative feature debut. Her other credits include the Sundance Film Festival Grand Jury Prize-winning documentary features Dig and We Live in Public, and the documentaries The Nature of the Beast, Join Us, Cool It, and Brand: A Second Coming, as well as the television series Jungletown. Following a recent screening of the film at the Harmony Gold Theater in Los Angeles, Ms. Timoner spoke with director Maria Burton about filming Mapplethorpe. During their conversation, Ms. Timoner discusses her love of Super 8 film and integrating the format into the film, shooting the movie in 19 days after a harrowing development process, and her belief that limitations are the key to great work.
So thank you, Ondi. I don't know how many of you know Ondi's stellar career as a documentarian filmmaker, where 2 Sundance Award winner, how many, 7 films before this, a TV show. I mean, I've known Ondi a long time. She's very prolific. And this film, I have heard about her wanting to do it for a long time, and finally it all came together, and came together very quickly when it finally came together, it seems. Like it's one of those
12 years in the making.
Right.
And from 2006, I optioned the rights originally to produce and direct the film. It was called The Perfect Moment, and it was based on the court case, which, and then looking back, the court case being around all of his work being in one show, as you see at the end, is being plotted, and then that's how the NEA lost all their money and forever, it seems, and all of that kind of came out of this massive rash of controversy right as he was passing away. So the original script, looked back, and then we took it to the Sundance Labs. When I won Sundance the second time for We Live in Public, they called me and said, "Do you have a film? Are you contemplating anything scripted at all?" And I said, "Well, I actually do have this film about Robert Mapplethorpe," and it was going to those labs actually that really made a crucial change in the course of the project. And that's when they challenged me to rewrite the film from page one, and then that's when I took over as a writer on the film. And then we cast James Franco, was attached for some years. Patti Smith, who I was friendly with, was very resistant to the project and kept stopping it along the way. So we were at the altar several times with the film, but we could never get it quite made. And then suddenly we pulled it all together when we had like 10 days left, which is how it usually goes. It seems like when the bottom's about to drop out is when everything comes together. So I've come to realize, I don't know why it has to be so dramatic.
You had no time.
Yeah, and then I had like 19 days to shoot the movie. So we shot the film in 19 days, all on film, all on Super 8 and Super 16. So, and it was 155 scenes, so it was really hectic. As my editing skills and editing these documentaries, if you know my work, they're culled from many, many thousands of hours of footage. That really came in handy with tweaking, like dropping 3 scenes or condensing information into every day, just improvising and knowing what would cut together, you know?
And that actually is something I wanted to ask you about, the difference between working as a documentary director and then a scripted director.
I found it really a seamless transition. Like, I actually love making this kind of film. It's really fun, and I mean, not on that kind of schedule. That was pretty harrowing, but I wouldn't recommend it. But the same thing. We do the same things. Like, I need to make my subjects comfortable. I need to set a set of space that they can feel like they're able to be themselves, you know? And that's very much what you want with something like this. You want authenticity. the key is authenticity, and to feel like it is Robert Mapplethorpe come alive on screen. That is what's most important, that there's a suspension of disbelief that you're in the 70s in New York, that with this limited budget that we had, we could still make you, bring you to that place. And that's crucial. So in documentary, I made a film about Russell Brand called Brand: A Second Coming. Every day would be this challenge with him where he would be like, okay, what do you have for me? Versus, a film that I just made about the opioid epidemic, where I'm needing to, people who are in a place of addiction or coming, and now don't have the ego of celebrity and all of that. But wherever it is, it's about meeting people where they are, So on set and with my actors, I felt like that was, I couldn't have had better training, And then as an editor in documentary, having edited all my docs, that was crucial in the rewriting process. I think it was 58 drafts, and every day leading up to the shoot, and I got that call the day before, like, if you don't cut a quarter of this thing by tomorrow, we're not going, or crazy stuff. Like
script.
Yeah, and I'm in the middle of timing my day one with my AD and with Nancy Schreiber, our fantastic cinematographer. And you get that call and it's like, okay, I guess I now need to go rewrite the film again,
And why had you rewritten it so many times leading up to this? Was that through the labs and things? Were they people
different
were pushing
budget
you?
levels? At one point we had 12 million, at one point we had 9 million. We had different, we had definitely different budget levels. So could we make it for 1 or 2 million? Then with Patty being so resistant, which it's an emotional issue that she has that precedes me by decades. And I'm not one to judge it, but she just didn't want anything made about Robert Mapplethorpe that's not in her control, even though this project preceded Just Kids by 4 years. So she didn't even, I don't know if it was even something she was contemplating when I optioned the rights to this, but I tried to hand it to her in 2006. And she's like, you can't portray me, I'm not dead yet. And then she also, Randy and Fenton, who are good friends of mine, who made the Mapplethorpe Look at the Pictures, the documentary, they contacted me in 2015 or something and said, what have you done all these years with Patty? Like, do you have any advice? Because she's really, she's like threatening us. And so, but I tried everything, but that was a lot of it was like, could we do it without her? But it was really important to me that it was a coming of age, and coming into his sexuality through his art was super important to me, because I feel like as an artist, I wanted to make an anthem for artists, really. I felt like there was an opportunity here. Most all of my films are about what I call impossible visionaries, like people who take on the impossible and they sort of act impossibly along the way because they have a vision for something we can't see at the time. And they have to withstand a lot of doubt and ridicule to get to the goal, which is to make us see what they see. In this case, Robert saw beauty in what we deemed obscene, and he really needed to make us see that so that maybe we would love him too, and so, it's something where it's important to me that it's like unflinching, and seeing him grab onto when the camera comes into his life, it's this tiger's tail. And I can say, as a filmmaker myself, a doc filmmaker, that was how it was for me. Like when I picked up a video camera when I was 19 years old, I was a student at Yale. You were there, or had just graduated or something. And I was just like, wait a second. I can go anywhere with this camera, and I can ask anybody anything, and they're going to answer my questions. This is awesome. This is a bridge into worlds I could never otherwise enter. And it was really like grabbing onto a tiger's tail. And I feel like I related to Mapplethorpe that way, because when he got that Polaroid, he was able to go into these bars and clubs that he could have this mediation, right? He was safe behind this camera. But then he realized, like, if I keep it riffraff and I just keep it documentary, well, then nobody's ever that's not gonna change anything. So it was about turning it into Rodin and Michelangelo. It was about turning it into undeniable fine art, collectible fine art, which, made photography a collectible art form too. So he did so much that was revolutionary. But that moment when he comes into his own sexuality, that was crucial. And she was his first girlfriend. There was nothing I could do. like I couldn't remove, like I wish she was a second girlfriend because then it wouldn't be. But yeah, so we had to rewrite so many different times for different legal issues and things.
how were you able to include her in the way that you did? I mean, how did you get the rights for that?
Well, there's actually several scenes we shot that aren't in this cut. That it is even more. There's more Patty to be had in this. There's more Patty that exists. Well, when she said, "You can't portray me, I'm not dead yet," I thought, I believe I can. But I'm not going to argue in the catering tent at Lollapalooza because I thought I was still going to film her show that day. But she banned me from filming her show that day. I mean, the summer before, we rode a golf cart around Grant Park, had the best time. So it was a shame. But yeah, you can portray someone who's a public figure.
Right.
And
Has
if
she
it's
seen
crucial
it
to the
now?
story, I have no idea if she's seen it.
Oh, okay.
I think we did. It was a very respectful portrayal.
I would wonder if she'd see it and like.
I mean, there was a version where I included her poetry, and then obviously that had to come out and things like that. Every time you revisit a film,
poem.
maybe it's like a painting. I don't know if you can overpaint or overwrite. Probably you can. We have some writers in the house that I could consult with afterwards. But I definitely felt like the script got better and better, and that sometimes the limitations really are the key to great work. Because you can feel the tension of 19 days on screen, I feel like. And sometimes just economizing or combining two scenes makes it even better storytelling,
Right.
And I'm probably just justifying the pain I endured, all of our pain.
You wouldn't know. I think it's gorgeous. Though I do feel like I may have read an earlier draft where you had started more in the church. Is that something that was lost in the editing?
Yeah, well, I don't think Robert Mapplethorpe's Robert Mapplethorpe without the Catholic Church. He was an altar boy, and when he realized he was gay, he was going to lose Patty, and he was also going to lose the love and adoration and respect of his family, who already he was teetering on the edge there because of dropping out of Pratt and all of that, and being sort of different his whole life. So that was really terrifying in a lot of ways, and I think he felt like he was making a deal with the devil because it was through the filter of religion. So yes, my script, the screenplay we shot, starts in the church with an entire other decade of him as a boy. There's a director's cut. This is the Directors Guild, right? Yes. We're at the Harmony Gold right now, but let's pretend we're there, and let's not talk about the director's cut publicly right now. But there's a chance the director's cut might see the light of day.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. And Nancy Schreiber, I've worked with her as well and adore her. How is that? It's so beautiful, which of course you need for a subject. I mean, you want it for every movie, but especially this. You better do it justice.
Yeah, Nancy had followed my work and stayed in touch over the last, 15 years, I'd say, ever since Dig. And she is such a lovely human being. Her energy is so great. I never paid attention to her work until she threw her name in the hat, and I talked to Steve Bellamy, who's the president of Kodak. I was in the desert. I was like the guest filmmaker for the LA Independence Retreat or something, and I ended up having dinner with the president of Kodak, and he said he had heard me be interviewed, and I had said that I was making this film about Robert Mapplethorpe, and he said, well, it would be a crime against humanity and art if you don't shoot it on film. And I said, well, then I guess you have to help me make that happen, right? I have to convince my producing partners and financier that that's what should happen. So you have to make it affordable. So that's how we met, and I really credit him with making that happen, really helping me to make that happen, which I think is a very important element. And so Nancy was one of the cinematographers that he recommended that could shoot and operates Super 16 millimeter, which I love so much. I shot all the Super 8, and I always shoot Super 8. I shoot my movies, I shoot my docs. So I always had Super 8, except for We Live in Public, which is so futurist. It's so much about the virtual boxes that we trap ourselves in that there's no room for Super 8 doesn't apply. But generally I do. When I realized we had 19 days, I just bought a bunch of Super 8 film and brought my camera, and I just kept it on my chair and would shoot in between takes, shoot the actors just to get peanut butter for the bread, and just anything I could pick up that would make it feel more authentic. And also just Super 8 has this wonderful, perfectly imperfect quality. It's almost like Christmas when you go to the transfer because you have no idea what's going to come out. But Nancy, looking at her work, there were all these moments in different scenes in her work that were so gorgeous, but then there was nothing that was consistently gorgeous. And I was like, felt like I was maybe rolling the dice, which I am wearing dice right now. This is a Mapplethorpe rep. This is his jewelry that he made. Oh. Yeah, so this is a replica that we used in the movie. I don't usually wear dice or die and walk around with it, but it's opening weekend, so
it works.
I've had it on for opening weekend, but yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of a risk, I felt like, because I hadn't seen one thing, and then I thought about all those frustrating times as a director that people don't hire you, or you see executives just go for, oh, he did that or she did that one thing, so now we know it's a safe bet, And I thought, well, I don't operate that way. Like Nancy has the capacity. She's never
things with no.
Well, that's
no
what I said.
Money.
She had no opportunity, and she maybe didn't have a director who was going to like push her to be like, she would like say, "You're killing me" at some points, because I was just like, this has to be as beautiful as Mapplethorpe. Like if it's not beautiful, it's going to fail as a film. So I showed her City of God, and I just went for side light and backlight, and to put as much contrast in the frame as his life contained, and I felt like his life was black and white, and this film needed to be from like, the beginning to death. And I couldn't tell the story without AIDS. There's just no way to do that. So it was not going to be one of these biopics where you're in a day in the life or a month in the life, as much as I like those. There wasn't 1 month I could pull on for Mapplethorpe. So it's like black and white in such succession, it turns gray. And I needed the cinematography. We needed it to be like that. And she so delivered, she knocked it out of the park.
And
she's amazing. And she's 70. I think she turned 70 already. She's amazing.
Right.
And she's a legend.
Amazing. Yeah.
And she can just roll with it. She can operate, and she's like a bird. She's hyperactive.
And back to you were saying about your directing experience, working with the actors, being there in the moment. Did you have any rehearsal time with them? How did you work with?
Not really. I mean, we had some actors. I mean, Matt doesn't prefer it anyway to rehearse. We had a lot of like sit downs between the main principal characters, with those actors to just talk through what my intentions were when I wrote it, what we were looking at, what questions they had.
Was that before filming started?
Yes.
Okay.
So we had like a week in New York or a week and a half or something like that, Some actors wanted to meet with me separately and go through the scenes, and that was great. Awesome. But Matt did not want to do that. So we didn't. I mean, we talked through a lot of it. And we worked on his accent. That was what he was most nervous about. But we shot the movie backwards because I needed him to lose like 20 pounds because he was coming off Prince Philip. So I cast Matt 6 years ago, before The Crown or any of that stuff. My son, actually, who was 9 at the time, was a Doctor Who fan. And he's like, "Mom, you need to cast Matt Smith as Robert Mapplethorpe." And I thought that was absurd. I really did. Because if you knew Matt Smith as Doctor Who, it just really didn't feel like a connection.
But he looks like him.
Well, yes. Now, I mean, well, not now, but it's just kind of like I decided the left side of his face really looks like Robert Mapplethorpe. So if you watch the movie again, there's a lot from that side of his face. But I mean, he does look like him. There were actors that looked more like him. That wasn't it. It was the gravitas. It was that quiet tension he had when I met him that day. And I took the meeting because, well, his agents called a week and a half after Shuki said that to me. And I thought, that's really strange. Like, I never even thought of Matt Smith, and now Shuki just said that, and now my now my agents are calling about it. I guess I'll go to lunch. So I went there, and he was just so mercurial. He had such a tension in the room, and a shyness, but it was like dark a little bit. It was like the person I was writing. It was really, and so I was so excited about him reading, and he agreed to read, which I was thinking he wouldn't do today, but he corrected me in New York a couple weeks ago. He's like, "I would totally read still," which I thought was amazing. But anyway, he read, and I was cutting brand at the time, and my assistant came in and said, Matt Smith readings come in, and I said, is it good? And she said, not really. And I said, well, I don't want to see it then. So I've never actually seen that reading. I said, ask him if he'll do it again. And so then 2 days later, she walked back in and said he did it again. I said, is it good? She said, it's pretty good.
Wow.
And it was jaw-dropping. It was incredible. It was incredible. The entire team was just like, this is our Mapplethorpe. But at the time, we knew we couldn't get it financed with him in that role. So luckily, everything work. We knew it had to be him.
Was his being attached ultimately part of the financing coming through?
Oh, well, yeah. I think it was really helpful at then the Crown happened and we got lucky like that. Mm-hmm. But it was we made a commitment to him before that because he was the guy. Mm-hmm. And we just figured we're going to make it happen if we have to bring the budget and, go, Ondi, rewrite the script again. So
Are you allowed to talk about what the budget finally was?
I don't know if there's any rules. Really.
Just with your own.
And it's all about breaking the rules. I was like 3. It was whatever was the top that you could be and still be tier 1.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so 3.75.
And you had 17 days, 19 days?
It was supposed to be 21.
Uh-huh.
But then it was like, well, you're going to lose a day now. Like now that your art department did a location scout, you're now losing. But after the tech scout, I lost a day, and then I had 20 days, and then it was the last day was all the exteriors and him walking through the city, and there was this whole midnight cowboy part where he walks the city. After the Whitney, he leaves the Whitney, and then he walks to the park where he meets Patty. Mm-hmm. There was suddenly no way to do that because we couldn't afford permits. I don't even know. It was just
period cars alone to fill out.
I don't know if you noticed. There's just a couple cars that keep rolling around.
I hadn't paid attention. That's interesting.
Now I'm ruining your second viewing experience, but wow. What a strange, incredible question. First of all, to repeat for the people in the back, thank you. It started with a slew of compliments. That's all you need to know. No, I'm kidding. It was that he forgot that Matt was Matt and that he was not watching Robert Mapplethorpe pretty much right off the bat, and that it was very believable New York in the 70s and 80s. So thank you for that. And then it was that Tim Daly's son playing Brandon Sklenar is the actor. No, it's not Tim Daly's son playing Edward Mapplethorpe. That's really interesting because Tim Daly actually played Sam Wag. Tim Daly's a dear friend of mine. And no. But I love the rumors that are going to start out of this. I should have let that ride. I love Tim Daly, and Tim Daly did a fantastic job as Sam Wagstaff at the Sundance Labs. He came to the labs and he played Sam for me. Tim Daly was not available. He's too busy now.
So you were just feeling his.
But Tim's son, I know, is an actor. It's really amazing, though, that you said Tim Daly. I have to write him and tell him that you said that. But Brandon did a fantastic job, and Matt Smith and I were doing a piece for the New Yorker. The Guggenheim has a big show going on Mapplethorpe right now called Implicit Tension. And we were walking through there with New Yorker magazine a couple weeks ago. And who was there but Edward Mapplethorpe? And it was just like, wow. And we hugged. I had only met him once before. He really tries to stay away. He's a little fatigued, obviously, with just how much of his brother, how much being in the shadows. And we didn't really talk too much during the making of this, but he said he saw the movie and that he felt that Brandon really portrayed him accurately and that he was really pleased with the film, and that meant a lot to me. So that was great. But was that your question, Tim Daly's son? Are we moving on? I think we have to move on. We just got the 5-minute mark, so we gotta do 5 questions, and I'm gonna answer fast.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
So asking about the editing techniques and her background as a documentary filmmaker.
So I edited the film. This cut, I didn't complete the edit on this cut. I edited the director's cut, but a lot of the scenes are still in there, and the way I cut them. And the way I went about it, again, is like, you want to be there. You want to feel like you're there. Very present and in that world, So I almost I love shooting with 2 cameras. I love shooting with Steadicam. I love being really able to move throughout the space, really flexible. I wanted it to have almost a documentary feeling. And I wanted to anchor it with real footage sometimes, like archival footage, because like whether it's the TV and when he's checking into trying to get into the Whitney at first, just giving us a time and a place where we are, or seeing Reagan, who is responsible for the death of so many gay men, and Pac-Man as you come into, which I realized there's a shot of Pac-Man and We Live in Public too. It's like it's Pac-Man in both films. I realized that recently, but yeah, I mean, it just, I feel like understanding this is not that long ago. Look at how far we've come, but what he was dealing with Stonewall or all of that, just trying to really honor the real story that it is. I wish I could give you a more eloquent answer on the editing. I don't know. I mean, I just cut, you cut for, it's interesting with this kind of film, with a scripted film, because you have takes. I mean, sometimes we only had like 1 or 2 because of the schedule, but still you sometimes have takes and you can slide, audio under the best visual or whatever it is. But it's always about what's going to make the audience feel something, be there. And I also really love judgment as putting you in a position where you're empowered to grapple with your own feelings of judgment, because judgment at the end of the day is a futile thing. We're all flawed. And I wanted you to come out of this inspired, even though somebody wrote me coming off the opening the other night that it was the triumph, she said, of the film is that it's such a tragedy, but that somehow it's uplifting. Like there's this buoyancy and there's like this feeling of inspiration coming out of the film, even though it's so sad and so dark, and he makes such dark choices. I really love that, because that's the thing, is I want you to feel as an audience that no matter how flawed you are, you can make great things happen, And I feel like that's a lot of the mission with a lot of my work, is like step out of line, break the rules, don't feel like I can't do that thing. Feel like you can do that thing, and that's why I didn't want to make a documentary about Robert Mapplethorpe. I really wanted to bring him alive so you could feel that, you could see that.
I think that's very eloquent.
And not 1 minute long. Yes. So as a director, how did I deal with the sexuality in it? So it was really important that it not be X-rated. And so obviously, that scene where they're sort of intimating that they're jerking each other off, for lack of that's a terrible way to say it, but what are you going to say?
It's what it is, right?
Yeah, it's what it is. It was about making Matt comfortable, because it was a lot of exposure for him. So I used my iPhone, quite frankly, to take pictures off the screen, and even to shoot the take rehearsal, to shoot a closed rehearsal, so that he could see that he looked good, and so he could feel comfortable. And then it's about, skillfully shooting it so that you get that feeling of what's happening just out of frame, which in a way is so much more scintillating than seeing anything, I think. There's only one real penis in the film. I don't know if you can spot it. No?
Except for lots in the photographs.
Yes. Oh, that's true. One moving live penis. I don't know if it was moving, but maybe by millimeters, which is on the bed, on that beautiful shot of the 3
Oh, the 3
men.
of them.
That's the one real penis. I was going to shoot Milton's penis, and I thought that was in the contract, and we had a big argument, like a nice argument, but me and McKinley, I was like, but I thought it was in your contract that I could film from this direction. And then about a minute into we're standing out in New York on the street talking about shooting his penis. And then I went, wait a second, are you circumcised? And he said, yeah. I said, okay, game over. Like, don't worry about it. You get your wish. You'll be shot from behind. So yeah, I mean, just a kind of a mixture between practical and, on the fly, and, you have to compromise your vision here and there. But I think that worked out.
I think you did it wonderfully. Yeah. Then you go to the photograph and.
Yeah. I mean, it's an erotic film. Somebody was saying last night just how sensual and how sexy they thought the film was. And that's really important, because sex was so important to Robert. And he became, the arc of the film is, I see it for him, as from a person who's really just finding himself to someone who's quite hardened and quite predatorial, and really finds the imperfection of relationship hard to reconcile with the perfection he puts in every frame. He would possess people with those frames. You know, he would sleep with somebody and take their picture. That was part of the way he went about it. And that was the relationship in certain ways, and that's very sad. There was a lot about that too that I hope comes through, you know, that makes people, I mean, certainly for me, it made me realize, you know, that do you want to be married to your work? As an artist, you kind of have to be, but then what about love? Like, what about dealing with the imperfection of relationship and allowing that to be, you know? And I feel like he lost his way there. And so it's a bit of a cautionary tale in that.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you all very much. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
For doing this.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. If you'd like to hear more, you can find past episodes of The Director's Cut wherever you listen to podcasts. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Also, if you're enjoying our podcast, please take a moment to rate and review us on iTunes. We'd love to hear your feedback, and you can help fellow cinephiles find the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America. Music is by Dan Wally.